Welcome in, everybody. Sharpening the Edge for week number 5, along with Lucas Reimink. I'm Dennis Fithian. We're ready to bring you lots of picks. Normally 9 picks, but with the Lions playing last night, we will have 8 units for you. Lucas, happy week 5. How are you?
Yeah, doing pretty well. Last week we had a few fights. You got the best of me a few times. 3, 4, and 2 overall last week. Not great. 2 pushes were kind of weird, but brings me to 18, 14, and 2 now on the season. So still positive. Hopefully can build on that again this week. I definitely like the board more this week. I don't know why, just the games or what, but I like the board more this week than last week. So,
well, if Notre Dame would have been able to win that game, I would be talking a lot more positively about everything that I picked because I had that tied into some things. I know they had their opportunities, but I had that double dog money line pick that they were tied to. And then, of course, with my best bet. And, not being able to win that one really hurts. But we have another week and another chance to go out there and show everybody what we are all about. It's one of the great things about sports, one of the great things about handicapping. You don't do well or you do well last weekend, you got to go in and do it all again this week, as they say here. And like I said, 9 picks. We usually hit the Lions, but they were masterful last night. What a game. But we'll pick always Michigan to Michigan State. We'll bring you 3 best bets, and then we have a prop and a parlay. And there's the teams right there. Let's start out with, as we always do, Michigan. They haven't been great against the spread. It would have been nice if you had them 24.5, like I know some people did last week. That wasn't the case for me. But this time, the first road game of the year, and you have to lay 17 points. One of the big factors in this game, I don't know how you factor it in terms of the spread, but a record high 95 and 20 to 30 mile per hour winds in Lincoln, Nebraska at kickoff tomorrow at 3:35. How do you see this one? Michigan at Nebraska.
I didn't really love the spread on this game. I would kind of lean Michigan, but anything over that like 17 area on the road makes me a little wary. This Nebraska team is not very good. I wanted to go full game under as well. Was pretty appealing, but it's so low. It was in the 30s, like 39 last I checked. So none of those, like I was kind of looking through trying to figure out what to do for this game. None of those looked great. And then I looked at the team totals, and Nebraska's team total is listed at 10.5. I'm going to take the under there. I just think this is a safer bet. It's the most safe bet in my opinion in this game. Nebraska's offense is really bad. They've changed quarterback multiple times this year. Early season starter Jeff Sims, he's been a little bit banged up the last couple weeks, but he's been turning the ball over like crazy even when he is healthy. They played 3 different quarterbacks, and it might play as many as 3 in this game, it kind of sounds like. And then Michigan's defense is one of the best run-stopping defenses in the country. So I really expect them to put a lot of pressure on whoever ends up playing quarterback for Nebraska. And I just don't see them putting more than 2 drives together to be able to put points on the board. So I'll take the Nebraska team total under 10.5.
So you're not too scared of Henrik Harburg, huh?
I'm not. He actually is part of the reasoning as to why I didn't want to take the full game under, because there's a chance Michigan scores on defense or special teams or something like that. So
I hear you. Now, I looked at this one, and I don't think Michigan is going to cover the 17, although I do think it's going to be close. I have it as a 30-14, which would ruin your team total. But, hey, we don't talk about these things beforehand. But I would take Nebraska plus the 17. But I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not going to bet that one, but that's the pick that I have for this game. All right, that takes us to a very difficult task, and that is trying to evaluate Michigan State. The worst that I have felt all year long was picking Michigan State last week, but you have to be able to turn the page, as they say. This time down in Iowa, Michigan State is getting 12.5 points. And, Iowa was shut out last week up in Happy Valley. Before I looked at the spread and anything else, I went and put this one through all the tests myself, and I came out with a 24-13 score for Iowa. Low scoring game, but as the spread goes with 12.5, I would take Michigan State plus the 12.5 barely in this one, but I wouldn't feel good about it. But 24-13 Iowa, but I'll take Michigan State in the 12.5. What about you?
I'm with you. It's down to 10.5 in some places I've seen.
Woo!
So this number might be moving. A few reasons I like. I'm gonna jump on Sparty's this week. I bet up against them the last couple. They've looked really bad. I just think this game's gonna be pretty gross. If you've watched Iowa's offense, you have an idea of what I mean. There's just no way you can trust them to cover 2 touchdowns against another conference opponent. That's kind of the way I see this game. The thing that kind of scares me the most is an Iowa defensive touchdown. You know, if it's like a 17-10 ball game for most of it, but then there's a pick six or something that could ruin our Sparty cover here, especially considering Michigan State's quarterback situation hasn't exactly been great so far this year.
No,
But I do really trust. I still like Michigan State's front seven on defense, and Iowa they really can't run the football. So when it's a team that can't really run the football and they're also not good at throwing the football, just makes it way too hard for me to trust them to cover more than a 10-point spread really. So anything over 10, I still like MSU, and I even think there's a chance they win this game just because Iowa's really that bad on offense. So I will take Sparty to cover here.
All right. Yeah. I hold our nose for a couple minutes there talking about MSU. All right. That gets us to the fun part, at least as I see it, and that is the best bets. And for the best bets for me, I'll go first. I'll put them up on the screen for you. I am looking at the game tonight in Utah at 9:00. They're out in Oregon at Oregon State, and they're getting 4.5. I'll take Utah in the 4.5. You know, if you look at some of the numbers here, Utah leads the Power Five, allowing just 1.7 yards per rushing attempt. And as you told me last week, and I checked it, that is the name of the game for the Beavers. They love running the ball. Utah is very good at stopping the run. I'm going to take Utah outright in this game, but I'll take the now 4.5. I know there's questions about the quarterback and Utah's quarterback, but they're winning without him. So I'm there. My second lock of the week or best bet of the week is USC minus 21.5. They're at Colorado. That is a gigantic number, but if you look back to last week, Oregon has the second most efficient offense statistically behind USC. USC is number one. They don't have as good a defense, and they're playing on the road. But I think what I saw from the Colorado defense, I didn't see anything. USC can score as many points as they want. They'll be like the Dolphins last week. I think they could put up 70. So I'll easily lay the 21.5 there. And then LSU Ole Miss, the total is 67. I picked this game. I know Jackson Dart and Jaden Daniels. It's exciting. The ball's going to be flying all over the place. But when I picked this one, I thought 34-30. That is under the 67. And that's why I am selecting LSU Ole Miss, the under 67, as one of my best bets. How about you? Let's hear your trio.
Well, I got good news for you. No fights this week. We're not going at each other. We got different games. I do have one game similar to yours, but yeah, different bet in one of the games. I'll start with my 2 unders. I'm going to go under 43.5, Utah, Oregon State. I was tuned into both of these teams last week. Obviously, I had bet on Oregon State. They were my lock of the week, let me down. And I bet against Utah, and both teams kind of showed things that they had not showed thus far into the season. So I lost both bets. But I was tuned into these games is my point here. I was watching both of these teams, and I just really don't see the total points in this game going over that 43.5. DJU hasn't looked very good in the last couple of weeks for Oregon State. Their offense is kind of grinding to a halt a little bit. And like you mentioned, Utah is really good at stopping the run, pretty run heavy. So I don't see them putting up a ton of points on their side. Cam Rising, questionable, didn't play last week. even though it sounded like there were reports that he might. There's still question marks this week on if he's going to play, but it is a short week. This game's Friday night, so I'm kind of thinking he won't play. I'm kind of building that in that he won't play, just because that's the way it seems to be trending. So I really like both defenses. Without Cam Rising in this game, I just think it's going to be a very low-scoring game. I'm thinking like 17-13 is kind of where I'm thinking this game will end up. So I will take that under 43.5. The second under, I got Notre Dame and Duke under 52.5. I was watching Notre Dame last week, obviously against Ohio State. I was really impressed with the way their defense played. Their cornerbacks in particular played really well against Harrison and Igbuka, excuse me. And they're still really stout in that front seven. They can really stop the run. Duke, on the other hand, they don't really have the best athletes on the field, but when you watch them, they're very fundamentally sound on defense. I think Mike Elko is a really good coach, really good head coach, really good defensive coordinator, defensive mind. I don't think he's able to stop Notre Dame offense completely, but I do think he can come up with a pretty good game plan to keep their scoring in check. I like this game to be about 28-17 type of game, so I'll take that under 52.5 there. And then Clemson -7 playing Syracuse. I'm going to ride them. Even though they lost last week, this line kind of confuses me. I really believe that the market is too low on Clemson. I think it's kind of a public perception kind of thing because they're 2-2. I still have them power rated as the top 10 team in the country. A lot of the other ones I've looked at still do as well, kind of in that range. Their defense was really, really good last week. They kept a really good Florida State offense contained for the majority of that game. The Noles only scored like 20 points in regulation. They had a defensive score and then scored again in overtime. And then Clemson's offense, they kind of have the same problems that they've been having all year. They really can put up yards and put up good drives, but they struggle to finish those drives. But the more I've watched Klubnik, the more I believe that he looks more and more comfortable every single week. So I'm betting he continues to trend and grow in that offense. And I don't think Syracuse is particularly good. Their defense statistically is good. Their offense, they have Garrett Schrader as their quarterback. He's been around college football for a while. You kind of know what's happening with Garrett Schrader. He's like solidly mobile. He's like an okay passer. He doesn't really scare you in any way. Syracuse is down 2 of their starting wide receivers as well. And they have a like super athletic, kind of like mismatched type tight end. Who's going to be drafted somewhat high this spring. And he's also out for the year. So I'm going to bet on Clemson to bounce back, cover this spread. I like them to cover that -7.
All right. I almost feel like this happens sometimes, with that Florida State Clemson game. I felt like I had the wrong side. I mean, I ended up having Florida State minus the 2.5, but the whole time I thought this is the wrong side. I picked the wrong side. This is the wrong bet, and then ended up winning it. So I almost feel like I have to apologize for that, but that happens sometimes when we're gambling. We know that. Well,
never apologize for wins.
I guess I'm doing it anyways. Now comes our prop and our parlay, and I have to warn everybody or announce to everyone that last year I took in the pros, I took a 4-team all dog parlay and hit. And again, I just made my entire season. I just sat back and everything was a free roll after that. So with that in mind, I have put together a big parlay. I have got first my my double dog parlay. I was so close last week. I feel like I have to go back to it again. I'm taking Utah, as I mentioned earlier. I don't want those points. Florida's in Kentucky. Florida is actually a dog in this one. I'm taking Utah and Florida on the money line. And then I'm taking Donovan Edwards for an anytime TD. I don't think this is that big of a stretch for all 3 of these things to hit. And if it does hit, plus 11-19 on it, and you start putting the money down for that, you start seeing like, hey, this is a pretty good return if those 3 things happen. And that is what I'm going to do. And for my prop, I am going to take Donovan Edwards for an anytime touchdown. There have been a couple weeks in a row where I think Michigan has said, okay, they want to get Donovan Edwards a touchdown. I think it was week 1. They were down there by the goal line and they fumbled it off to him. And then, he's been close to getting it going and it hasn't happened. And I know they use Blake Corum an awful lot because he's so good at getting in to the end zone, but they really want to get Edwards going. They want to boost up his confidence. And with he is plus 140 for an anytime touchdown. I feel great about that one. Donovan Edwards in the end zone for a score. And then that the trio of picks where you get plus 1,119. I feel pretty good about that. So I'm waiting for my ship to come in this weekend on the prop and the parlay. I feel really good about it.
Oh, that's good news. I've hit my last 2 parlays, so I think I've figured out a method. I've got another one this week, 5-team moneyline parlay. I'm going to take USC to beat Colorado, kind of for the same reasoning that you talked about earlier. I really, kind of like you said, Colorado doesn't have much of a defense. I really believe USC can pretty much name their score here. Colorado's offense also, I feel like, has taken a little bit of a step back in the last couple of weeks. I know they kind of ran into a buzzsaw last week. But it seems like the more games that they play, the more teams are catching on to what they're doing on offense and how they should adjust to it. They're getting a lot of too high shell now, where early in the year we're getting more cover 1, cover 3 looks. That too high shell look basically just means run the football. That's what the defense is trying to get the offense to do. And Colorado really struggles to run the football. Their offensive line's not particularly good. So when teams have that 2 shell and you can't run the football, it makes it hard to put up a bunch of points. And they're going to make you drive the whole field to score 10 play drives to try and score. And I just don't think Colorado's going to be able to do that consistently in this game to keep up with the USC. I got Oklahoma to beat Iowa State. It's a big favorite here. Iowa State, not very good. I really believe in this Oklahoma team, at least so far. They play Texas next week, so that'll be a bigger challenge. But all I'm taking them is to win this game. I don't think they'll have much trouble with Iowa State there. Alabama to beat Mississippi State. I really believe there are better days ahead for Alabama's offense. I think if it seems like they've settled on Jalen Milroe, and now that they have, I feel like they have to start building in his feet into more of the game plan. They got to get him involved in the run game more than he has been. And I think that could unlock another level of their offense, at least to some degree. I don't think they're going to be a super explosive offense with the quarterback options that they have. But by choosing Milroe and not using his feet, you're basically playing with one hand behind your back. It doesn't really make sense. I don't get why you would choose Milroe and not run him more than they have. But I still really like this defense for Alabama. So I think eventually this Bama team will continue to get better as the season goes on. I think they're going to have no problem beating Mississippi State there. And then Clemson I threw in there. Kind of talked about that already. I expect them to cover. In addition to just winning, I'm throwing in my parlay here to just kind of juice the line. And then I also had Georgia to beat Auburn. I'm going to talk about this one more in a little bit, but there are reasons that I feel good about Georgia. But I'll talk about them more at the end. And then for my prop, I'm going to take Roman Wilson over 64.5 receiving yards. A few reasons why. Nebraska's defense statistically is the best rushing defense in the country. A lot of that's just who they've played, to be totally honest with you. But I still think they are more of a top 25 type rushing defense. Like if you watch them, they are good at stuffing the run. It's not like a total anomaly. So I think Michigan will want to get JJ comfortable throwing the ball early. Given that Nebraska is so good at stopping the run, I think they're going to try and play action, throw to set up the run later on. I think they're going to have a big play here for Roman Wilson off of a play action type thing. And Roman's having a really good year so far this year, 15 catches, about 270 yards, 6 touchdowns. If he keeps this up this pace, it'll be like a 60 catch, 1,000 yards even. And the touchdowns won't be sustainable, but he's pacing for like 20 touchdowns as well. So really good year so far for Roman Wilson. And I think he'll go over that 64.5 receiving yards with a big play off of play action fake.
All excellent reasoning. Yeah, I was watching the Nebraska run defense. They got 2 defensive tackles to wear that single digit. Those guys are going to be, it's going to be tough to run inside. That's for sure. But it's a great matchup considering what Michigan has on their interior offensive line. That's going to be the thing to watch in the game. I love that you're challenging Tommy Rees as the offensive coordinator, if not Nick Saban down there at Alabama, telling him, getting the quarterback more involved. So I like that. Do you have the number about? Oh yeah, there it is, plus 110. All right. So all of that
comes 110,
yep. Plus 110. It's worked for you. So I mean, when you go for 2 in a row and you feel good about it, why not go for 3? I get it. That does get us to our best bet of the week. And all of you on the Maize and Blue review that are on the Den, when you click on there, I always put our best bets. It hasn't been fun. I hope you don't go back and check my best bets over the last few weeks, but I do put it there nonetheless. And I'm going to give you mine this time. And speaking of defensive tackles, I feel pretty good about this pick because of a defensive tackle, Johnny Newton of Illinois. Watching him against Penn State, he was like the best player on the field. Not very impressed with Purdue. Illinois is getting a point at Purdue. Give me the Fighting Illini to win this game handily in the lock of the week. Illinois +1 over Purdue. Why not just take Illinois to win it outright? That's my lock of the week.
I'm going to finish with, I've talked about it a little bit, mentioned it. I'm going to take Georgia to cover the 14.5 against Auburn. Haven't bet on the Bulldogs yet this year. This seems like the best opportunity to do so. It's a rivalry game on the road, Jordan-Hare Stadium. I think it's going to be a good atmosphere. So that kind of like leads into my logic here. I believe Georgia will get up for this game, given that it is a rivalry and it's on the road. So they're going to kind of have to get up if you expect to go on the road and win in the SEC. Auburn, talked about it a lot this year. They have quarterback issues still. Peyton Thorne just not getting it done there. They're kind of calling for Robbie Ashford. The fans are, at least, for Robbie Ashford. The problem is if they throw Robbie Ashford in there, he's basically just a glorified Wildcat quarterback. He really struggles to throw the football downfield. So I really believe Georgia is going to have like a boa constrictor type game here. They just kind of choke the life out of Auburn over the course of the entire game. I have this as like a 27-6 type of ball game here. So I got Georgia covering that 14.5 pretty easily, even though it is on the road.
Georgia -14.5. Lock of the week. I have Illinois +1 at Purdue. Great job, Lucas. Enjoy the game tomorrow and great picks. Nice to talk with you. We'll do it again next week.
Absolutely.
There it is. Thanks for watching or listening on the podcast. Smash that like button and leave us a comment.